Well, we are in Matthew chapter 12, and we're thinking about rest and Jesus and Sabbath. Do you want to just take us through kind of what jumped out at you?
Yeah, it's a fun part of coming towards the end of the term. We're in Matthew 12, but we haven't sort of left behind the trajectory we've been on. Like last week, Jesus dropping in this call and invitation. Come to me, you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. To pivot straight from this invitation to rest, and to rest in Him specifically, into the Sabbath, I think straight away that's already laden with some cross-pollination. Right?
Yeah.
I think wanted to sort of frame Matthew 12 in one way, like we enter a conversation about, okay, what does it actually mean to keep the Sabbath? What's this conflict between Jesus and the Pharisees, that the Pharisees are charging Jesus with breaking the law, and Jesus in some fashion is going, no. So there's actually kind of a question there for us that we're entering that's like, okay, what was the Sabbath all about? And we kind of have to do some backward looking to understand that. But already there's probably the way that the flow has presented us, there's already a bigger question at play, which is, since Jesus has invited us to rest in Him, what does the Sabbath now mean? Because if the whole purpose of the Sabbath is rest, and then all of a sudden Jesus is on the scene saying, no, rest is found in me, that's already reframing probably a whole lot of Israel's institutions, not just Sabbath. I was also hearing, like, in Jesus' words, a reflection on the temple as well.
Yeah.
Like rest catches up a whole lot of juicy threads and themes. It's not just about feeling weary and tired and needing to pull back from the busyness of a culture that overburdens us and overworks us. Not even just talking about our propensity to seek methods of salvation that are about ourselves and our work, and so here's Jesus and His grace. Like, that's true. Come to me in His grace. But that word rest is just so laden with, like, interconnections throughout all of Scripture that, as we're going through Matthew and we're jumping through different themes, rest now becomes another word that catches up a whole lot of stuff that Jesus, now we think about, okay, the salvation work that Jesus is doing, it is so big, it is so comprehensive, it's now caught up in this word, rest. Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of just a 30-second overview of where have we come from so far in the Bible in terms of thinking about rest and thinking about the Sabbath from Genesis through to Matthew? Just a quick run of where are we sitting in the current story?
Particularly with that theme of rest and Sabbath and temple. Gosh, I guess that's like a huge thread. Even like when you did Joshua a few years ago, how big is rest even in the framing of Joshua, where it sort of becomes about the land? So like that's another aspect.
Or Exodus. So in Egypt, they were slaves and they were working 7 days a week. They get pulled out, they're in the wilderness, and they've got a day off a week. And that's about rest from labour, but really it's about dependence on God and reminding them that their relationship with Him is the thing that sustains them. The manna from heaven giving like twice on the day before, so that it's about trust and relationship and union. There's a significant... Sorry, you're going to go somewhere else?
Oh, no. That's, like, I guess you're asking that foundational question. Like, it's God's grace to Israel. He commands them to rest. It's actually such a sweet distinctive that the pagan gods are depicted as creating human beings, essentially to be their, labourers, to do their dirty work. And so there's a beautiful picture. The God of the Bible is not a slave master. He doesn't need people to serve Him out of a sense of there's a lack in me, or I'm just incompetent, or the powers at play are fighting and I need like the God of the Bible is like, I want this presence and fellowship and relationship and communion, and rest is what facilitates this joining together of people with God. So out of slavery into fellowship with God, it's you must rest because you're not slaves anymore.
Yeah. The other usage of the word rest, which is connected but doesn't feel like it's connected, is so when God in the temple, his presence comes down into the Holy of Holies, he comes to rest in the Holy of Holies. So it's about, that's as much about final location as it is about freedom from work. The other one is the Holy Spirit descending on Jesus at his baptism comes to rest upon him in the form of a dove. And so, even when you put on the yoke of Jesus or you find yourself in him, it's you will find rest. You will come. You will find rest, which is not lack of labour, but there's that traditional use of rest. But also, when you come to rest in Jesus as your final location, that's the place of freedom, and there's good stuff that happens at that particular point. So anyway, that's just the other thread of rest that I think connects into this particular space.
I guess I didn't open up this part too, that even before we're getting to Exodus and then into the land and with temple and the way that rest plays out in those spaces, like probably foundationally, it's Genesis 1. Like the pattern that God establishes his creation order in this rhythm of 6 days that he works, and then on the 7th day he rests. And Genesis 2 begins with that mention, God blesses the 7th day as holy because on it he rested from his works. And so that sets up this pattern of from work into rest. And for God, it's like, it's not rest because he was tired and needed a nap, but rest is the picture that the creation work and the creation ordering is complete. At that it is fulfilled its purpose. It's now oriented appropriately towards the end for which God purposed it. Like it's, in a sense, it's not finished. Like here comes Adam and Eve in the garden, commissioned to work it and to keep it. So there's a job to do. Like it's not static, done. But the sense of rest for God is the created order is established and completed for the purposes. And so that already establishes this idea of rest as entering in with God, joining him in this space of fulfillment and completion. There's something beautiful in Genesis 2 that right after the 7th day rest line, God puts Adam in the garden, and the word put is God rested Adam in the garden.
Wow. Yeah.
So God rested Adam in the garden to work it and to keep it. Those two words, I think that's Genesis 2:15. Those two words, to work and keep, are words that only appear together describing the role of priests in the temple. And so this kind of shades the Garden of Eden as kind of God's temple. God's with his people, dwelling with them, he's walking with them in the garden, and this is God's place of rest. And so even in Genesis 2, there's a joining together of, Sabbath rest with temple. And then in Matthew 12, both of those images are brought together as well. The Sabbath becomes the occasion for Jesus to say something greater than the temple is here. I've been playing with those interconnections just since yesterday and going, I think there's a whole lot more about the fact that this passage brings temple and Sabbath together, that they're not too separate. In some way they're related.
Look, I wonder whether post Jesus Sabbath is union with Christ is Sabbath, as that brings temple together. Jesus as new temple, and I think that's pretty clear in terms of yoking yourself to Jesus, which similarly in terms of that rest is locationally finding yourself with Jesus. strapping yourself onto his yoke, being carried along. That's the faith stuff. It's the locationally finding yourself in Jesus, the new temple. That brings everything together from my part. And I think like Sabbath in general is a somewhat contentious topic in some circles. And most contentious circle that it was contentious in is the Pharisees. And it's interesting how that expression of concern has been raised century after century after century. You go, well, hang on, there's 10 commandments. We are absolutely bulletproof on 9 of them. You go, oh, but Sabbath, there's something different. Which at one level I'm like, well, Jesus does address it, he augments it, and if you go, no, Sabbath's important, you go, all right, therefore Jesus sinned, therefore he's not God, therefore everything goes home. We've actually got to sit with what that looks like. And I find that really interesting.
I think the other, I find it, I just found it curious the way that Jesus engages the Pharisees in this passage. When they charge the disciples with breaking the Sabbath, Jesus doesn't go, hang on guys, there were no laws about picking grain. God gave his Sabbath command in Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5, and it gets repeated, but God didn't seem like there's so many details about how the tabernacle's to be made, follow it to the T. But as far as Sabbath goes and what constitutes work, it's kind of left open. Not that I think, I wouldn't want to be in danger of saying that the Sabbath law was more frivolous or something, because there are stories like in Numbers 15 where a guy who picks up sticks on the Sabbath is brought before the assembly and God kills him for so there's something in that moment that's like, okay, no, keeping the Sabbath is serious and it can be broken inadvertently. So I can understand perhaps why the religious people of the time would go, look, we need to be careful with this thing.
Yeah.
It's not something to treat lightly, and can understand the impulse to say, look, if a guy gets killed for picking up sticks, we might need to be careful about what kind of work happens on the Sabbath.
I see it. I see it in this particular section in chapters 11 and 12. There's this discussion between what I describe as the yoke of the law and then the yoke of Jesus, which he's contrast for us in that last part of chapter 11. And here in the Sabbath discussion, there is the call to a law application in a Pharisaic model, which I would describe as the yoke of the law, or there's the yoke of Jesus, which is doing good. Doing good trumps technical law obedience in that technical sense, and so the yoke of the law is burdensome in that you have a strict adherence policy. Any breach of that particular way of operating is damaging, or has consequences that deserve, death or serious treatment. Whereas Jesus is saying, no, hang on, yes, the law is good by nature, but doing good is also good. And in God's creation, as he does work, he goes, God spoke, and it was good. Yeah. There's a goodness in the creation that God does and Jesus does at creation. Yeah. And as he's doing good all the way in those creation acts, here Jesus in the healing is also doing a recreation act, or it's a restoration of goodness in creation. And so God spoke, or Jesus spoke, and it was that he was healed. And it was good, is that there's that Genesis 1 picture that we see in this particular image. And so for then the Pharisees go, no, that bad. Was work. You've done work, and God doesn't want work. You're like, well, actually restoring God's creation and reversing the curse of sin, that is goodness in itself. And that's before you even get to the fact that Jesus, as God operating, as Lord of the Sabbath, when he chooses to rest from his work, that's his prerogative because he's the creator that spoke creation into being. The days only exist because he spoke them into the creation in that particular way. We should actually be careful at this point to listen to Jesus, not listen to the Pharisees who are going, no, don't be naughty. He's like, mate, and he doesn't say this, but you're like, I'm God.
Yes, yes.
I can do whatever I like at one level, but if I've got to choose between strict law adherence and doing good, I choose good every time. Because I'm a good God that does good things for his people.
I think we've seen already how the miracles that Jesus performs throughout, from Matthew 8 and to here, he does another restoration of the man's shriveled hand. We've seen already that those miracles weren't like random performative acts to kind of just display, look, I've got power. Each of them were tapping into an aspect of Israel's life and community to kind of show that the Messiah's bringing healing here. And so whether it's a leper who's on the outside and Jesus heals him, or it's someone who's dead and they're raised to life, the healings have got this like theological weight to them all. It's like, or there's fruit on the tree on the healing. And the same thing here, like to have this man with a shriveled hand and to land at the end, his hand is completely restored. Like we're getting a taste of the new creation. And Jesus is, like with every miracle, kind of going, I'm giving you a foretaste of eternity where everything will be put right and the whole world will be ordered and we will enter God's rest forever. That the whole trajectory of creation will be kind of finally consummated. And to be with Jesus in these times is to have that little taste of exactly what Sabbath is meant to point forward to. To rest from your work is to anticipate that joy and delight of being with God forever. And that was woven into Israel's way of being, even through like the festivals that were oriented around different patterns of like sevens. And on the seventh day, this will happen. All of those things were meant to kind of let time break in on normal life to kind of go, we're expanding our horizon of what life with God is like. And so when Jesus heals a man here on the Sabbath, he's wanting them to kind of go, this is the life that Jesus is bringing us into. This is what his rest is like. A world restored.
And how beautiful to pair that with there's something greater than the temple here. Like this kind of approaching at the temple toward his people and bringing them in. Like that's such a beautiful picture.
I've loved, like in Matthew, we've already, and probably even in week 1 in Matthew 8, there was probably some stuff even there that you were going, there's some temple stuff going on even here at the beginning. Maybe it was to do with, was it because the leper is told,
go to the house of the Lord, then you've got centurion, you don't even need to come into my house, and then they enter Peter's house. That house of the Lord framework's interesting.
So we've been sitting with, the way that Jesus is kind of a temple on 2 legs, doing the job. He's the sacrifice, the anticipated sacrifice. He's bringing healing and restoration, and then Jesus drops in here. Something greater than the temple is here, which is just such a bombshell line for them at this point. Like, talk about unexpected. They're having a debate about the Sabbath, and Jesus is just escalating it to say, no, I've got authority. It's way up here. You don't know who you're dealing with.
To run just slightly tangential to that thread, we get a couple of things here about priests. So there's the picture of David going in and he and his men eating the consecrated bread, which was for the priests, and the priests who are on Sabbath duty and they work. Is there some kind of thread that Jesus is picking up as to his priesthood, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think what Jesus is escalating with these examples is, I want you to understand what authority I have. I think that's why he doesn't actually like enter the conversation on their turf about like, okay, which law did I break? Or let's go through the Jewish Mishnah of laws and stuff. Like, he doesn't go there. He picks these examples because they become precedent for him to make a claim about himself. That's just so far beyond what they're engaging with at this point. So to pull on David, and then, like, technically, David breaks the law. He goes into the tabernacle. The priest gives him the consecrated bread. The priests make it for the Sabbath day. They eat it on the Sabbath day. No one else can touch it and no one else can eat it. Only the priests. And David is given that. And God doesn't rebuke David. So it's kind of an argument straight up that's sort of like, that says something that at this point in time, like, David has authority. He's God's chosen king. King Saul has been rejected, and God is privileging David, and God doesn't rebuke David, though technically he broke the law. And then to pivot from that to, well, priests in the temple, every Sabbath day there's sacrifices they offer. There's work that they do, that they're called to do, that they're commanded to do on the Sabbath. And so the question is a question of authority. And Jesus can only pull on these examples if he at least has as much authority as they do. But then to pivot out of those two examples and then to go, I'm telling you something even greater than the temple is here, it just sort of escalates him to go, I'm not just equal to King David. I'm not just equal to the priests in the temple. I'm greater than all of them, and I'm greater than the temple. And yeah, I think there is something of a hint in the mix of that too, that what Jesus is actually doing is a kind of, he's both king, who has authority and lordship, but he's also priest. He is the mediator between God and man, and in his own person and life, he is joining people to God.
I think the last thing for me is at the end, so the people in the temple, whoever they are,
Synagogue leaders,
they ask the question, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? And their response after seeing this healing is to go and plot to kill Jesus. So my question is it lawful to kill
on the Sabbath?
No. So if the opportunity presented itself for them to kill Jesus that day, which law trumps?
Interesting.
So like, and you go, look, you step back and you go, right, they think he's a heretic. What's the word I'm looking for? He's blasphemer. And so you go, it's right to put the blasphemer to death according to the Jewish law. And so you go, look, if you buy into the fact that they are genuinely seeking to defend God's honour because someone who's blaspheming deserves to die, you can go, all right, there's an okay thing at that particular point in time. But their response to God's good healing through Jesus' action is to plot to kill the healer who is bringing good. You go, that's a really critical moment that they've missed the opportunity to self-reflect. And they're actually in this space where they are choosing evil. So we've got the one who brings good and the one who plots evil next to each other, which again is this dividing line of the table image. As the shriveled handman pulls out the seat at the table with his good, new, fresh, good hand. These synagogue leaders are sitting outside in the dark, crunching their teeth and angry.
And which one's actually at rest in that moment? Like when you're that absorbed in the bitterness and the anger, and you're quite literally plotting and thinking, oh, how can I do that? That's not restful at all. That's
stressful as.
Well, it's funny because that's a good pickup, because how determined the religious leaders become to expedite Jesus' crucifixion, because they don't want to be doing it on the Sabbath. So they get the kangaroo court happening in the early hours of the morning after Thursday, so that they can crucify him on Friday and have the job done before the rest day.
As interesting, following that track, right? In terms of the rest paradigm, as they plot to kill Jesus, they're only going to be satisfied or be able to rest in a job well done when he's dead. And so when they finally kill him, that would have been they can rest in their work of killing the Messiah. When he then comes back to life, what do? They go, right, let's spin a narrative against other people are trying.
Yeah.
And then they get pushed back into this space where they're continuously having to keep working to keep it under wraps. Which I just find that a fascinating picture of they never truly find rest. They get one Sabbath day where they think they've won, and then he comes back to life, and then all of a sudden they're back in the hot seat.
Yep.
And they never truly find rest. And without relationship with Jesus, they will never find rest, had never found rest.